Good morning, folks. I'm heading to work here in Lexington, and it's going to be one of those days where I'm afraid I won't get time to make the video I want. Something happening here or there, or I want to read. And so I thought I'd go ahead and get this one out of the way. Give you a couple of updates. The first one being that Windstream had come out, and they confirmed I was right. The uploading of these videos causes our internet to crash, so I apologize, you probably won't see this video till tonight, because after all, you know, I don't want to run live stream and waste my data, and at the same time, if I run it at the clinic, if I upload it at the clinic, it'll just go out. So a lot going on at like home life and things, but here's one interesting thing. So I'm sure you've been noticing that I have a red spot that's been like getting redder over the last month or so. Finally decided to start focusing. You know how there's always a lot of things in the body to manage. Like if you manage your body and you do the energy work yourself, you don't just wait for the body to get it done. I mean, you could, if you have plenty of energy, it'll work out for you, you know. But I think most of us that live an American lifestyle and, you know, we're a bit sedentary are going to have to like put forth some effort. And in some cases, the nerve is plenty healthy, the muscle is plenty healthy, but it's just literally not able to get rid of. Hey, look, I'm in a Michael Bay film. It's just literally not able to get rid of that heat. So, you know, what I did was had Arwen fish in a very specific way. I told her how I wanted it done for the heat. I had these shivers all throughout my whole body. One needle, that's all, just right here in SI 18. And then this morning I continued meditating on it and found about an egg size ovoid of the basically radiation of the negative type that had built up. So some of my energy being wasted going there. So that's the kind of thing that, like, long term, if you do nothing about, it can definitely grow cancers. It could grow certain types of mutations because it's causing a twist in the energy dynamic in the cellular level. We're talking very microscopic. And of course that will lead to mutations in the genetics, which could lead to theoretical mutations, like cancerous mutations. And so you know, it's always advisable. Plus there's the vanity thing. So we're going to see, you're going to be able to witness whether or not I'm able to get rid of this reddening area. Originally, I think that it was heat toxin introduced by using a laptop a lot, a little over a year ago or whatever. Just watching and all that electricity hitting it, for some reason thinking that's a sinus point, so it might be related to sinus. Certainly I was meditating on it again later this morning and felt like a phlegm movement. So really fascinating. And this study of the secret sciences, in this case Chinese medicine, really illustrates to me the values of believing in an etheric model or some kind of underlying matrix to how everything moves. And that I would give credit to the dark matter, dark energy cosmologists. Like, they understand that what we see is not enough, generally speaking, that there is more going on there. They don't understand what it is, and that, you know, dark energy is just electricity and dark matter is just plasma in a dark mode. But they do understand something's going on. And that is changing, by the way. There's new articles and such that Ben Davidson has put out and that I have archived onto the Electric Universe Gateway, so you can find them there. Separately, I was thinking earlier about research and citations, and I realized that somebody might say to me, hey, why do you trust Velikovsky after Carl Sagan has so thoroughly debunked or discredited him? Well, first, I want to say there's an entire paper, it's like 300-page book, actually, debunking Carl Sagan's debunking. And he pretty much eviscerates him. I've skimmed through and read different arguments, and he takes it to him because basically it comes down to Carl Sagan would just make an assertion and nobody would go to verify whether his assertions had been correct or not. Secondly, trusting Carl Sagan to debunk the works of Velikovsky, which remember were not scientific based, they were history and mythology based. He had done 20 years of research on things like the Bible, on the Pure text, on the Egyptian Book of the Dead, these kinds of texts. So he went to source text. I prefer source text, but I can't read ancient Egyptian, ancient Sumerian, ancient Hebrew. And so he went to these source texts, and he provided the citations in his books. I want you to understand that Worlds in Collision and Mankind and Amnesia, these kinds of books had thorough citations throughout all the books. Every page has citations, sometimes multiple citations, 5, 6 citations. So it was an academic text. It was a study, and I think that was what upset the academic community so much, was that he had betrayed them. 40, 50 years later, now we find out that all of our science has to change, but at the time they thought, we're almost there, right? Our quantum relativity models, which don't agree with each other, are almost there. And at the time they had come up with some ridiculous things behind the scenes, dark matter and the dirty snowballs. All those things were fringe at the time, and then they became mainstreamed because of people like Carl Sagan. And yet he ended up so right that if he had been Carl Sagan, he'd have won the Nobel Prize several times. And I've covered this in another video that I did with Catherine. The Velikovsky conundrum. Who are you going to believe? The guy who's right or the guy who wants to be right? Up to you. I believe the guy who was right on a number of scientific assertions, but he wasn't a scientist. He was an academic, sort of like J.R.R. Tolkien. And to discredit him, you would need another person like Velikovsky. But there is no one like Velikovsky who's been able to thoroughly debunk, because when you read the Pure text, it certainly references the Great Flood. And when you study the situation of the Amalekites, and you study the missing 600 years, it's very obvious that he solved it. The timelines are just slipped by 600 years. That's all there is to it. And he's found out who the Queen of Sheba is. It's Hatshepsut. I hope I said that right. But because no one other than Carl Sagan was going to come forward and debunk him, and we trust physicists so much, I got news for you. Sagan's physics isn't the hard science that we all think of, right? It's not chemistry. Sagan's physics was highly theoretical conjecture about mathematical objects that only exist in the mind, possibly being real in space, based upon very, very questionable proof, okay? Like take gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing seems real till you realize, you see, if it was gravitational lensing, it should be degrading by the square. It should be happening much further out. It's only happening near to the object. So what you're really witnessing is refraction of light, which is electromagnetic. Right? That's what a wave is, an electromagnetic wave of light, through an electromagnetic field that is plasma. And as it goes around that object, do yourself a favor. You can induce refraction of this type. You can produce lensing yourself. Take off your glasses, or just generally look at something that seems fuzzy to you, and make a tiny hole just like this. And you can squeeze and make that hole just the right shape to where you will be able to focus the light and see that. No glass, just the hole in your hand. That's because the light is refracting not around the gravity around your hand, but the electromagnetic fields that are in the molecules in your skin. We know the electromagnetism is happening on that cellular level because of geckos. They use van der Waals forces to stick to even glass upside down. because electromagnetism's plenty powerful enough to hold a gecko upside down. So even the lensing is not correctly defined. There are NASA scientists that have come forward and said we're not finding the lensing as we should. We're finding lensing, but not as we should, because it's actually just refraction. And it's incredibly academically and intellectually dishonest to say it's gravitational lensing if it's not following gravitational law, if it's not actually reflecting the general relativity's prediction about how much lensing you should have at, say, twice the distance of where you're seeing the lensing. It's just not gravitational lensing. So Carl Sagan's relying on evidence like that, or of the universe expanding and accelerating an expansion, based completely on the Doppler idea, the Doppler model of redshift. Halton Arp proposed before Sagan's show already about intrinsic redshift. But I reckon that Carl Sagan probably just didn't know who Halton Arp was, who, by the way, has hundreds of galaxies named after him. So who am I going to trust? A physicist who is, of course, very likable, a very memorable voice, iconic show. However, most of it is bunk, and certainly his motives seemed a little bit spiteful. Was there perhaps some jealousy that he himself hadn't discovered how, hot Venus was, and the radio, the large amount of radio waves coming from Jupiter and the massive electromagnetic field around Saturn? I think that there's a good case for that. The way he zealously fought against Velikovsky, and then the nerve later to go on a show and say, it got ugly, and it shouldn't have gotten ugly. We should, in science, be able to express different ideas without it becoming so hateful. Well, who was leading the attack? Certainly, I forget his name, the man who lost to Edwin Hubble, and he was the head of astronomy at Harvard. He was the true leader of the book burnings and such. But that was back in the 50s. We're talking the 70s, when it was a Velikovsky affair, revisited, basically. Carl Sagan was. And yet we pay homage to men like Sagan and their ability to really, truly keep us in the dark about the new wave of science. I find it personally repugnant. If I had known these histories about Carl, of course, I loved Carl Sagan and the pale blue dot and all this stuff for many years. And Einstein. I was a huge fan of Einstein. Quote Einstein, even the fake quotes. Now, knowing what I know, I find them morally repugnant. The fact that Einstein took the ideas for special relativity from his wife's research, and then the idea that she had already been borrowing it from Henri Poincaré, and there's no way he didn't know about Henri Poincaré, because suddenly he's talking about gravity waves. Well, guess who was actually the guy talking about gravity waves from an electrical perspective? Henri Poincaré. So when you look at this, I find such things morally repugnant, and I also find it to be telling of the status of science. Capital S, science. The world of it. Essentially, I'm to the point where I think chemistry might be the only real science left in terms of Western science. It might be the only field that, as a whole, is it's totally science. And maybe David Eaton would have a different idea. I don't know. He's a chemist. He says he takes it to them all the time that they need to know more physics. I get it, probably do, because physics and chemistry are actually the same thing. But as a field, I feel like chemistry is a lot more morally. It follows the scientific method. There's a hard result. You can watch the results happen. I would say if you were to divide physics up and you said high energy plasma physics, that's a hard science for sure. And in general, electromagnetic studies is a hard science. I don't know how many people are studying springs and such anymore. Maybe there might be out there. However, I think Newtonian mechanics has kind of reached its zenith as a physics field. There are the people who want to modify Newtonian dynamics. Nonsense. Mond is not real. And there are the quantum Newton dynamics kind of people, and that might be real if they've got particle accelerating. I'm really into this new structured atom. If you haven't watched the EU video that was released recently, go watch it. It was from the conference, so I'd already seen it once, but it was nice to see it again. I don't think I understood it the first time. It reminds me I need to watch the entire conference over again. And the cool thing about when you buy the EU 2017 conference, you actually get 2016 as well for free. So, anyways, I don't think I have anything else to add this morning for today's vlog. And if you have any questions about the subjects that I brought up, feel free to let me know. If not, I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.